Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to go from this to this in a few short, simple steps. Alright, jumping right into it, what we're going to do for this video is I'm going to show you how to do all these tweaks and everything at the beginning, kind of how to do it all in order, and then I'm going to show you the results kind of near the end of the video. So if you don't care about the results, you just want the tweaks, then I'll just kind of walk you through how to do them here. So first, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go to the ASUS Drivers website, and I'll leave the link in the descriptions for all these and everything as well. And what you're going to want to do here is if you're having Wi-Fi or internet issues, you're going to want to download the Realtek drivers for that. Chipset drivers, you're typically going to want to always keep up to date. This says includes Bosch G sensor, so I assume that's probably the gyro control, whatever. But it still hasn't really been activated yet. But anyway, so yeah, the other one to keep an eye out is the AMD graphics driver, but that will update through the My ASUS, and typically they should update through My ASUS or Armory Crate. But I did find, at least in the case with the SD card reader, that I was getting inconsistent and slow download speeds on my SD card, no matter which one I tried, whether it was a newer, faster speed or a slower one. It was just slow and inconsistent. So once I downloaded the Genesis card reader driver, that's when I got more consistent speeds, and they were actually higher as well, sustained speeds. So if you're having issues, try downloading that driver. There's a Rokiri Pro controller driver here. I'm not sure exactly. It seems like it converts a Bluetooth input to Steam input. There's Bluetooth drivers here if you're having issues with that, and then My ASUS if you don't have My ASUS for whatever reason. And then as well, there's the fingerprint driver here. So if you're having issues, I know some people have gotten their fingerprints deleted, or like it just kind of craps out and it just doesn't register the fingerprint anymore. I think the Windows fingerprint system is dog slow and crap in general. I really hate it. But if you're having issues, try re-downloading the driver here, and that's the focal fingerprint driver. Now moving on to the tweaks. What we're going to want to do is go to BloatyNosy, and that's on GitHub here. So you're going to want to scroll down just down to here to download, and then you're going to want to download directly from the release page. And then he has, or they have, I'm not sure, they have the zip file here. So you're going to want to download the zip file. But before we do that, while we're still in Internet Edge, or Microsoft Edge, whatever the heck they call it these days, what you're going to want to do is click on the dots menu here and then click on settings, and it'll bring you to here. What you're going to want to do is go down to system performance here, and you're going to want to toggle continue running background extensions off. So you're going to want this will be toggled on. You're going to want to toggle that off in the settings. Now we can close out of Microsoft Edge. Now going into the BloatyNosy app, you don't need to install it. It's a portable app, so you just click on it and it'll open right up. Now what this is going to want to, or what it is going to do is it's going to identify things that are bloatware or just bloat in general in Windows. So we're going to walk through kind of each one. So for browser, this is just disabling the giant Bing search and all that stuff, and it's disabling like telemetry, like privacy data stuff. So that's okay. We can leave all those checked off. Explorer, same thing. This allows you to see hidden files, which is convenient at times, especially with GamePass games, because sometimes those saves or those folders or something, they're hidden in a hidden folder. So this will just have those on by default, which is always nice. So that's not really going to affect performance or anything, but it's just a nice to have. As far as desktop down here, sorry, I'm using a wireless keyboard and mouse combo, and it's like a little touchpad keypad mouse, so it's not the greatest for fine point. But anyway, sorry. So going to desktop, it has use dark theme because dark theme's cool. And then it disables all like the fancy kind of snaps and the widgets and all of the design effects. So it just kind of tightens it all in. There's nothing like terribly breaking here. The only thing that I would suggest maybe going through here is maybe you would want to keep the snap assist. So what that does is when you're holding the window, it'll be like, oh, do you want to have this on the right half and then open up a window on the left half? And it'll have those preset layouts. So that you might want to keep on, but I don't really care too much, especially on a handheld, because it's typically you're not using two apps next to each other one at a time, or if you are, it's very briefly. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave these all on just to show that it will work. And then we're going to go to taskbar and start menu. So these are disabling the task view, disabling teams, disabling all that sort of stuff. So that's fine. There's nothing in there that we really need to keep on. Again, I do recommend you to go through all of these just to make sure. So now this is where it's getting into things that you should probably kind of make sure. So the remove Windows 11 system requirements, we don't need to worry about that, but we'll just leave it on anyway. Full context menus, it says it's the worst feature. I'm not hipping with it with what's the worst feature and best feature on Windows or even what they're called. But whatever, so we'll just leave that checked off. Microsoft Teams on startup, yep, we're going to disable that. Fax and printer and stuff, if you do plan on using a fax and printer, leave those enabled, obviously. And for the TPM check, we're going to want to leave that off. Now that's should be semi-important because that involves like the secure boot and all that stuff, and Windows 11 does technically require like the TPM to be active for you to install it in general. So we're just going to leave that unchecked just to be better safe than sorry. And then most importantly, we're going to check off uninstall OneDrive because OneDrive can eat it. I hate it so much and how it's integrated into Microsoft Windows 11. It is garbage. They give you the 5 gigabytes of data. They load it all up with all sorts of crap that you don't know what's going on. It uploads your desktop icons and everything into the cloud too, which is a real smart idea. It's just stupid. But anyway, enough ranting about that. So we're going to disable that for sure. Going down to gaming, there is some settings here that you're going to want to leave on, or I would recommend to leave on. You're going to want to leave on the game DVR feature. And with that, that's like your Xbox GameBar. So when you press the Xbox button, it's your screenshots, your recording, all that stuff. So if you disable that, none of that will work. So I would recommend leaving that checked off so it doesn't disable it. Now this next one is power throttling. It says it's designed to maintain battery life with laptops and tablets, but it says that it can work in a not desirable way in the description here. For the purpose of this video and just because I have done it before and it does work, I'm going to leave that and it's going to disable. And then this as well is adjust visual effects for best performance. So what this is it's the, again, like kind of like the windows, like the translucent effects and all those things. So if you like your windows kind of looking a little bit more modern and clean, you might want to leave that off. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to leave it checked on and it's going to disable it. Now going to privacy, all of these, I have no problem leaving these all checked off because it's just, yeah, it's like the only thing you might want to do is maybe disable automatic installation of apps. But even that, yeah, like leave that disabled. There's really nothing here that you really could go and change, but you can if you want. Feature recommendation, we're going to turn this off because this is, I believe, just kind of like bloatware type stuff, or like it's some Linux, or no, sorry, yeah, it's a Linux operation thing that we don't need to worry about. It's just going to add something that you're not going to need. Now, going down to this bloatware section, what we're going to do is uncheck them. So we're not going to let it do its own thing, but what we are able to do, if I can move my mouse over there to uncheck that, there we go. What you're going to want to do is go to the high priority or high whatever marked one, and then right click on it. Then you're going to go to configure this app, and now here you're going to be able to see all of your apps installed on the computer, or on the, well, it is a computer, but on the Ally. So you're going to have things like the Your Phone integration, Microsoft Corporation, Microsoft Teams, things like that, right? So it'll be able to identify like, yeah, here's all your crud, like you don't need it. So the nice thing about this is you can show actual system apps, but it'll warn you like, hey, there's certain things that if you do disable, like it'll try not to let you disable them, but you can disable some stuff that might mess it up. So honestly, I would recommend just not touching that. Now, the cool thing about this, if you go on over here on the right-hand side and click on the drop-down menu on the empty bin and remove apps, what you can do is add bloatware rated by the community to the recycling bin. So this is what's been voted in by the community and what's been kind of known generally to be like bloatware crap. So what it's going to do is you can see on the right-hand side here, it's gonna disable Disney, Netflix, McAfee, security, WhatsApp, like all these HP desktop, like we don't even have an HP computer, right? So it's going to disable all these HP support assists, Adobe systems. But again, so it's always good to just double check and go through here because it's disabling DTS. So that's the DTS is an audio standard company. So the ROG Ally though has Dolby audio speakers. So I was concerned like, oh, it might be wanting to get rid of the Dolby audio stuff, but it doesn't appear that it's going to be. So, and the sound and everything, like again, I've tested all of this, it's going to work. So, and then here's the big important ones. So like OneDrive, OneNote, OneConnect, all the Microsoft People, Print 3D, Skype app, Microsoft Wallet, Spotify. So yeah, it's fine to move all these and remove all those. It's honestly, this is kind of my recommendation for it, is just to do that community thing there and then just, yep, remove. It's going to uninstall all those. And then here we go. There we go. So they've all been removed and we're good to go. Now, what we're going to want to do is go back. Now, I say to leave the general setting checked off is because I fear or have a feeling that it will remove the ASUS Armory Crate SE stuff. So we don't want it to take any of the ASUS stuff off, but we'll let it take off whatever bloatware else it thinks. So then what we're going to do now is we're just going to hit fix and then apply fixes. And then yes, and then it'll usually, yep, bring up the little command window here. It'll do its little process and give it a minute here. So this Windows Web Experience Pack thing, it's available, or it is on the Windows Microsoft Store. So what it's going to do, or what it did do the first time, is it's going to open up the Microsoft Store and then uninstall it through there. When you do revert these settings, it will, okay, sorry, yeah, no, this one's bugging out because I already have it uninstalled. So that's all this is doing, was just doing a command prompt to remove that. But anyway, so what it'll do, if it works properly, is it's going to go up, bring up the Microsoft Store and say, hey, uninstall this, and you're just going to uninstall it. Now, if you don't like any of these fixes, or if something breaks, like one of your games or whatever, I did test this to work with GamePass games. I'm able to play my GamePass games. That's another kind of thing you want to watch out for with custom Windows OSs. Sometimes they cut out way too much stuff, and then you can't access like GamePass games or whatever. But anyway, if you want to revert any of this, all you're going to have to do is hit fix and then hit restore default state, hit yes, and then it's going to reactivate everything, reinstall the crap that you had on there if you want. But anyway, so that's the BloatyNosy app. Now, moving on to the page file size. I'll show you how to do it. And sorry, after you do the Debloatisy app, you're going to want to restart the computer, and then all the changes will take effect. Like you'll switch over to dark mode, and the file folder systems will change and all that. But anyway, so sorry, moving on to the page file system, what we're going to want to do is right-click on on Start, and then hit Device Manager. Or oh no, sorry, I'm a wingnut. Right-click on Start. And then we are going to go on to System, and then we're going to go to Advanced System Settings, and then we're going to go to Performance Settings, and then we're going, and so previously, sorry, quick side note, I know, previously that one of those last settings in NosyBloaty, sorry, these are the performance tweaks that it's talking about in the gaming section. So for this, maybe there's some things on here that you want to keep. So if you want to keep the like slide in menus or peek and stuff. So peek is like you can, when you do this and then you highlight over that, that's peek. So that will be disabled if you want. Again, all these things kind of have to be, you have to restart the computer to do so. But these are what it disables. Okay, now anyway, sorry, moving on to the page file. We go to advanced and then we go to virtual memory here. So now originally when I did go change mine was at about 14 gigabytes of page file size memory. So what the page file is reserved space on your hard drive that acts as like kind of overflow for your RAM. So what people kind of suggest with handhelds or things with less RAM is to set your page file. Oh yeah, set it to 16 gigabytes or 32 gigabytes or whatever, something ridiculous. So I did test 16 gigabytes. My apologies, 16 gigabytes versus default. So if you want to change it, click off of automatically manage and then go to custom size, and then here you're going to type in your value. So if you want 16 gigabytes, you're going to type in 16,000. So that'll be 16,000 megabytes, which is 16 gigabytes in conversion. But as you'll see, I'm not recommending you do that. And we'll get into the results here. So I'm just going to, actually, I guess I can just hit cancel and that should do that. Okay. Sorry about that. Again, I'm trying to streamline everything. So yeah, that's pretty much everything for testing. Just a quick, for changing settings and like debloating. So now, just before I get into testing, I just want to talk a little bit about the overclocking and stuff, or changing your TDP. So when you're in your Armory Crate SE in the base menu here, you're going to go to settings, you're going to go to operating mode. So now here are your operating modes when you bring up your quick access menu or your command center here. So typically, or default, it will be set on performance, and because it's buggy as all heck, I can't set it on performance right now. But anyway, so typical to be heavily set on performance. So now what happens in performance is performance will let it, oh my good God, okay. There we go, okay. So performance will set it to 15 watt for SPL. So the SPL is the maximum sustainable, like, allowed power limit. And then it's going to set the SPPT, which is max sustained for 2 minutes, to 20 watts. I'm fairly certain because that's where mine settles in. And then honestly, I'm not 100% sure where FPPT gets set for performance mode, but it's likely 30 or even 35 maybe. I'm not 100% certain. Probably 30 if I were to take a guess. But anyway, so what's going to happen is you're going to play your games, and at the start you're going to get these boosted at 20 watt levels, or at least in my experience. And I think it's a kind of stupid way to handle it, and I'll explain why. So it's going to boost immediately up to that 20 watts, and it's going to stay up there for about 2 minutes, give or take. And then when you get down to when you're playing your game or whatever for an extended period of time, after the 2 minutes, it's going to downclock itself to the 15 watts. So now when it's at that 15 watts, obviously you're not pushing out as much power, as much performance, right? So it's good in the sense of, oh, there's a lot of streaming or loading in happening, or if for burst little situations, but it doesn't really seem to work in a burst type way. It will just boost up to 20 watts, sit there for 2 minutes, and then downclock to 15 watts, and then just sit there for the rest of the time that you're playing in that mode. So what ends up happening is your game starts off getting good performance, and then slowly after about 2 minutes, the performance kind of nosedives unless you're playing a light game. So what I recommend doing for now, unless they fix it or whatever, if this is by design, I don't know, but it's still kind of dumb in my opinion. What I recommend doing is just setting a manual one to whatever you want, and then just setting and matching your SPPT to what you want. Obviously, you can't bring it down to lower than 15. You can bring this all the way down to 7, but at that, you wouldn't be worrying too much about that anyway. So my recommendation and what I've been doing for my tests is for my 15 watt mode tests, I've been setting them like this with 15, 15, and 25. And then for my overclocked or whatever maxed out 25 watt test, I set it 25, 25, and then 35. And that was my plugged in, maxed out, kind of overclocked. And because I can't get my maxed out docked overclock stuff, then this is where we're left at, unfortunately. So now we'll get into actual performance. And real quickly, sorry, we're going to be talking about core isolation being turned on and off, and it's just a Windows security feature for the memory. So what we're going to do is go down to the privacy and security, on the Windows settings, and then we're going to go to Windows security, and then we're going to go to device security, and then that'll bring up this menu, and then we'll hit core isolation details under core isolation, and it'll be memory integrity, the first option there. So what you're going to want to do is flip that off. And then again, getting into performance, I'll show you why. All right, moving over to the results in the interest to keep things kind of clean and quick and easy. So what I'm going to be doing and showing is 1080p performance for both games. It's going to be Red Dead Redemption 2 and Cyberpunk. As well, both are going to be FSR quality. Red Dead Redemption 2 was set to the default, whatever they were set to when I turned on the game, with the exception of turning on FSR. It's basically ultra textures and low everything else. As well, Cyberpunk was set to Steam Deck quality settings, but changed from FSR Auto to FSR quality. Everything's running the latest BIOS, but as you can see here, I started my testing before I saw the new AMD GPU driver update that came out today. It was just a hotfix, but you can see just even in my one little benchmark run here, with Red Dead 2, that it gave us actually a performance boost here. Nothing amazing, but we just did get higher numbers, so it's worth noting. But whatever. So moving on, that'll be our baseline as the new driver, and then just getting a quick baseline for Cyberpunk. Again, this is out of box experience, so this is the 4GB UMA buffer, default settings, none of my debloat tweaks or anything like that. This is out of the box experience, and then as we go, I'll just be adding things. So those are 15 watt and 25 watt runs there, just as a default kind of benchmark run. So now comparing Red Dead 2 with a 16GB page file, which was detailed earlier in the video, we can see here that the 16GB page file did not really seem to offer too much of a difference. If anything, it did get us lower 1% lows, at least in our 25 watt run. But nothing too far off. So if you do this, it might offer better experience in some games, but I highly doubt it. So I'd recommend just leaving it on auto. And that's what I did for my testing going forward. But I did test Cyberpunk with the page file. So as you can see here, pretty much the exact same run. So again, it made no difference, except with the one outlier here with the 0.1% lows on the 25 watt was a little bit higher than the 25 watt 16, so it shows that maybe default is better anyway. Now moving on forward to Red Dead 2, same thing, out of box experience with default page file plus my BloatyNosy plus core isolation off. Core isolation was detailed in the video again, same as everything else. But moving on, so with the debloat tweaks and core isolation on, these were our runs for Red Dead 2, and then with core isolation off as well as the debloat tweaks as well, these were our runs. So we can see here, honestly, the debloat tweaks, I didn't bother including those results separately because there wasn't really too much of a difference. So I didn't really bother. So I just included the BloatyNosy and core isolation all in one. As we can see, core isolation off made the biggest difference. So with core isolation off, 32.8 versus 29.1 FPS average with the debloat tweaks for both as well. And then for 25 watt, we got 46 versus a 40, and then the 1% lows were higher as well. More so with the 25 watt mode versus the 25 watt mode core isolation off, but as well the 1% lows were higher in the 15 watt mode as well. Moving on, going to Cyberpunk, same thing. We are doing core isolation off on, so same thing, we got more performance, which is always good. So we got a 21.8 FPS average on with core isolation on, and then with core isolation off, we got 23 FPS. Going over to the 25 watt mode, it boosted our FPS by 3 overall, and then it did actually, we did see a decrease in the 1% lows by about 1 FPS, half, 3/4 FPS. And then with the 0.1% lows, they were a touch higher, so it wasn't too far off, but the overall FPS was higher as well. And then moving on to the 4GB versus 8GB UMA frame buffer. I apologize for the bottom of the graph being cut off here, but you'll see that it's basically the exact same and it makes no difference. So you can see here that with the 8GB, we got a little bit higher FPS averages in Cyberpunk for the 1% lows, but the FPS averages themselves were the same. Now moving over to Red Dead Redemption 2, however, we can see that the 4GB UMA frame buffer got us higher 1% lows versus the 8GB UMA frame buffer. So with all that being said, the 4GB versus 8GB versus auto is going to be very game subjective. I will still be making a video in the future that's going to detail like a bunch of games, and we're going to go through everything, when to use auto, when to use 8GB, when to use 4GB, and hopefully kind of keep a ongoing tally of, okay, yeah, this game works best with this one and this game works best with that one, and that's where we'll kind of go with that. And with all that, that wraps up today's video. If you have any suggestions or other tweaks, drop them in the comments. Let me know, let everyone else know, let people know to try them or not to try them. Let me know, or let the community know what settings you guys have been using for certain games, what has been working, what has not been. Somebody said my last video for the performance tweak that when you set it to auto, Doom Eternal wasn't launching for them. However, in my case, I was able to get it to launch even while trying to run it on an SD card, and I was able to play it as well. So for some games it might work, for some games it might not. But it's a PC at the end of the day. If you're having issues with your games, repair the install files through Steam Launcher or whatever, and then do tweaks accordingly. And then hopefully if you have problems continually and other people are as well, then it could be an issue. But if you're only having an issue with a certain game and nobody else really is, there might be something specific to your system that is causing an issue. But anyway, so to ramble on a little bit more, I am having a bit of a contest giveaway, if you will. So this Friday, I'll be posting a video and you'll be posting a comment on that to get the entry into the giveaway, but I'll have all the details just superimposed here. So basically the gist of it is that my video that I put up yesterday with Tears of the Kingdom, if that gets up to 500 likes and I get up to 1,500 subscribers by Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, then I will give away 2 full-priced games, recent release games or an older game, whatever, base version only, just to keep things within reason. Sorry. But yeah, and then after that, if you guys are interested in the content, then I obviously welcome you to stay subscribed, but if not, then obviously unsubscribe and just say see you later. That's fine. No ill will against you. But anyway, so that'll do it for this one. Again, if you guys have any ideas or anything like that for the community, let me know, whether it's video ideas or tweak ideas or whatever. Somebody was mentioning about possibly doing or saying that I should have like a Discord basically, or where we can kind of get together and basically hash out stuff like this as a hive mind basically. So let me know if you guys are into that sort of thing. I'll be honest, I'm not up and with it with Discord, so I would need a little bit of assistance with kind of moderating and things like that. But yeah, beyond that, hopefully everyone has a great day.